Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, what's happening? I hope you're having a great day. It's a beautiful Thursday. I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be in the 915 and about to go have some super fun times um, with two of my favorite organizations in El Paso, the El Paso Microsoft Innovation Hub and the MCA, the Medical Center of the Americas. And we are having a fantastic, exciting, just a super fun event, a drink and think. This my type of way of spending an afternoon. Um, it's trivia. It's going to be so fun. So I'm on my way there. I'll be there in just a few minutes. And the event starts at 4. And I'm emceeing, so I'm super excited about that. But it got me thinking about volunteering. It got me thinking about volunteering and my experiences of volunteering in communities, online communities, volunteering in my local communities from Kentucky to El Paso to online global different types of communities and organizations. And I wanted to just talk about how to not volunteer. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot over the past few years, and I mean over my lifetime, because I volunteered in a lot of situations. But I really, ever since 2020 and the pandemic, and a lot of those online communities sprung up. Whether it was on Clubhouse, which was an audio app, if you know, you know, or whether it was through LinkedIn, where I jumped into a lot of community sales and marketing communities and learned a lot there. Whether it was local here in El Paso in the borderland, I ended up, have become members of several communities and have volunteered in different ways. And there's a right way to volunteer, there's a wrong way to volunteer. Okay. I think the first thing is that you should go into a volunteering experience. There's two different ways to come into them. One is if you have no idea, like if you're new in a city and you don't know exactly what direction you want your career to go into, then you're going to want to experience different communities. And find the types of communities that align with you. And these do not just have to be professional either. Like if you're a musician, you should join music communities too in your local area. You're going to get to know people that are into the same things you are, and you'll be surprised how that can open up for you in your career, whatever it is that you're creating or that you're wanting to offer impact wise. When the more you have in common with people, the more you can build relationships with them that is past the superficial level, and it gives you the opportunity to have connections in different places. Okay, so that would be what I would say. So number one is if you're new to a place, if you're new to an industry, it is going to serve you to jump in as many communities as you can, just to experience them. But you have to be very intentional, because what you want to do is overcommit yourself across a multitude of communities, because that, if you don't have a specific intention on why to do this, then you'll end up getting burned out really fast. Second, people aren't gonna like this one, but you have to have integrity when you're coming into the communities, and you really should not ever, especially if it's their communities, if they're nonprofits, whatever kind of community it is, you should never compromise your integrity to be a part of that community, because it's never going to end well. At least in my experience, it never has. The online communities that I would join, and this happens to me a lot because of my enthusiasm and my, whatever, intelligence. I'm just going to say that because, we should recognize who we are. Um, but at the same time, my enthusiasm, and my curiosity. I'm not afraid to be very, very honest that I don't know everything and most things. So I'm not afraid to ask questions, but people appreciate that because I didn't realize a lot of people don't like to ask questions. They feel it makes them look stupid. I actually want to actually know and understand. In fact, I'm one of those people who I can't be good at anything if I do not actually understand it. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions because I want to actually understand, because I actually want to do an incredible job. Okay. And so if you're in communities that just want you to perform, but don't actually want to improve, that may not be the community for you. And you'll learn these things right away. A lot of times, they were all on Clubhouse, the audio app. I entered so many communities that I rose, quote unquote, rose in them. It's like it's laughable now, but I rose to prominence or whatever in these large communities with hundreds of thousands of very impactful people. And I would end up in some sort of leadership role, and inevitably it would crash and burn. Why? Because the people did not have integrity, honestly, at the top. And how did I know that? Because they would talk trash about it, everybody. And and to someone like me who was new to the community. So I'd be like, what are you talking about, bro? And they would, and when you see these types of behaviors happening, it's not, if they're talking about other people, you're going to be on the chopping block eventually, especially if you have integrity. It's going to happen. So so that's how not to volunteer. If you're volunteering your time and there's whispers of some tomfoolery before you even start, don't think you're going to be the exception to the rule. Because that was my mistake. So, like I said, community. So if you think I'm talking about you, I probably am. But there were more. Trust me, you're not the only one. And so, I'm here to keep it real. We don't have time to waste right now. I want good people who really care about doing great work. I want to see you end up in spaces that actually value you. And that does mean taking accountability too. And so, there were definitely things that I did incorrectly within those dynamics. One of those things being that I thought that it was cute, and I didn't really think it was cute, but I'm just saying that I would hear all this other talk that had nothing to do with me, all do about other people. If I indulge in that, that means that I am just as guilty. And I'll say that. That means that I may as well be just as guilty. You're contributing to a toxic environment, and trust me, it's never going to work out in your favor. I learned that the hard way. And so that is why, none of those online communities ended up working for me. I think some of them are still going, and more power to them, and hopefully they're not as toxic as they used to be. So there's that. Next, how not to volunteer. Don't go into any type of community, nonprofit, to volunteer and just expect to be a leader right away. I think that's a very bad plan. You should be going, if you're going to volunteer, it should be for the cause that you're volunteering for. It should not be for the proximity to other people that are in the group. None of that. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm not even saying I've never done that. But what I am saying is that it's completely ineffective and a waste of time, because you should not be trying to get proximity to certain people thinking that they're going to owe you something or that you're going to get something from them. That's very self-centered. Your focus should be whatever the service of that nonprofit or that community is. And then that way you go in there to learn. You're going in there to learn. You're not going in there right away to take over stuff, to get clients. And so that's such a short-term vibration, and it's not sustainable, and it does not work. You want to go into situations, into volunteering opportunities, because they interest you. The actual premise of the organization is something that you want to learn, or the people you want to serve, the space you want to be in, for the simple fact of being and serving in that space to those people. That should be the only reason you should be volunteering anywhere anyway. There's plenty of places to volunteer. Also, the next thing is, do not volunteer. Don't volunteer if you don't plan on volunteering. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And that's why you have to be very selective on who and what you volunteer for and with who, because it's a lot of work. Like, it's never just, oh, I'm just going to do this. Like, it doesn't necessarily work that way. I mean, there are certain ways that you can just like offer your time for a day or something like that. And actually, I think that's great. You know what I mean? I've done plenty of those opportunities to where it's just like, oh, I could come help out for a day and whatever. But you want to go deep in your relationship building, etc. So really just being able to volunteer for one day is really not going to give you the benefit of serving that nonprofit or that community. Like, you're not going to make the meaningful types of connections and relationships that are going to make it and prove it to be a valuable venture to do. And that's extremely important. Like, be intentional. So from a wide perspective, if you don't know anyone in your town, if you have a business and you've been running it for so long and you used to be connected in, but now you're just far away from what you know what I'm saying? Like, you're far away from having the interconnections with people who are in the trenches right now, and you want to grow your business, your enterprise, and you need to join an association or some sort of nonprofit or community that is in the scope of what you're doing. You want to connect with the people that are on the leading edge of what is happening right now. Let me see. You don't want to wait. You don't want to wait. And you don't want to be isolated. So that's why it's important to explore the associations, and then don't just explore them. How can you get engaged and involved with them? And if not you directly, somebody in your organization needs to be doing this, because it's going to help you to naturally stay attuned to what's happening in the market. And this market with this administration has never been more volatile, has never had so many changes happening so quickly as it does now. So for you to be disconnected is a huge disservice to your patients, to your employees, to your business. So you want to make sure that you are joining a community or an association that is in direct engagement with your customers, your clients, your patients, and not just to get continuing education or just to, complete whatever some sort of requirement. Like, if you're going to win today, you need to be connected with people who are working hard to win in your industry and market. So only you know what that is. Only you can make that decision. Only you can make that determination. I just did this off the top of my head, so I was going to recap at the end, but I can't. So once I watch this again, I'll do a recap in the description of the video. But basically, ultimately, the bottom line is the way that you want to, way that you do not volunteer is you don't volunteer for selfish gain. You don't volunteer you don't volunteer without being clear on the terms of what you're volunteering and signing up for. You don't stay in toxic environments just for proximity to people, because that should not be the reason that you're doing it. You should be doing it to serve the actual patient, or either the patients or the clients or the communities that you are involved with. Like, it should be for the people ultimately, not for the organization. Does that make sense? So if you worked at the Red Cross, It shouldn't be so that you could be in and if you volunteer at the Red Cross, it shouldn't be so you could be in proximity with the Red Cross people. It should be so you could serve the patients in disaster that the Red Cross serves. That should be your mentality. Does that make sense? So, and then don't be fake, don't, and I think that pretty much sums up what I said. Yeah. And then be specific. Once you are in a specific field, then you should narrow your volunteering moments for you should be intentional about the organizations you volunteer with so that you can learn and grow and help those organizations that are adjacent to your calling and to your business, where your business sits in. Especially if you're not doing anything right now. Like, those are opportunities that what I've learned from volunteering and connecting with different companies. The beautiful thing that I can say is that there have been absolutely every single community I've ever been involved with, I've learned so much from, and I am on great terms with and open to being on great. There's one that some guy really went rogue back in the Clubhouse days. So I don't talk to him, but everyone else I literally talk to still because I like them. They're cool people. And, I love all people, and I recognize that just because it's not a good fit doesn't mean that people need to be demonized, It's just okay, it's not a good fit. But how will you learn if you don't try and apply? So that's my, that's my advice to you. So anyways, I am headed to the tech, the Think and Drink to do some preparation. It starts at 4. So we have 36 attendees that are going to be there, that are coming, and we put them all in teams. And so it's going to be just a fun time of learning of tech trivia, El Paso trivia, and pop culture music trivia, all some of my favorite things. So we will see you all. I'll see you soon. Take care and God bless. And let me know what has been let me know what your experience has been in volunteering and community. I'd love to hear.